When I get to talk to my friend Liz Allen Giordano, the conversation always turns to music. And so it was no surprise that yesterday we talked about the early 90s scene in St. Louis and Uncle Tupelo and Wilco and everybody else. Listen to the Dale Wiley Show and hear more.
And sort of in their orbit, there were some other bands, and we actually got early exposure to Uncle Tupelo,
right,
through the local scene, and some really good music, and of course,
and I clearly remember. No, go ahead.
Go ahead. You go. Go on.
Well, I so clearly remember, I don't know exactly when it was, freshman year, but I remember that we sat down and interviewed Rich Fortas, who has gone on to be a member of Guns N' Roses.
Absolutely.
Talk about a strange connection. And I remember him, he talked about there were 3 bands trying to make it big, and I posed it to him as, isn't it so cool that we've got 3 bands? We've got the Eyes, and because he was in the Eyes, and we've got Uncle Tupelo, and we've got, who was the third one?
Three Mariota.
Oh, yeah. And Rich was just, he really gave me Rich
was also
90s attitude.
It was really funny because back then there was the landing scene and there was the loop scene. Those were 2 very different scenes, and different kinds of people went to the landing scene and went to the loop scene. I mean, although there were a lot, some of us like you and me who would go and do both.
Yeah.
But and of course Mississippi Nights on the Landing was there would be local shows but national acts and really I think a lot of folks have their own favorite memories of shows at Mississippi Nights, but that were just epic because it was a smallish venue. It was kind of loud, kind of smelly, and
you were there.
The floors stuck to your feet, but we saw a lot of really good shows there. Anyway, but then there was Kennedy's on the Landing, and that was the venue of the Eyes / Pale Divine because they had to change their name. And we did go to shows there, and of course, they were kind of they were a little bit goth around the edges, and all the boys had long hair, and they were all cute, and so I was kind of, I wasn't really into them. I kind of I would make fun of them sometimes, but I liked some of their songs. So enjoyed listening to them. But, and then, became friends, of course, with Dan, the bass player.
Right.
And we had Rich. Oh yeah. Dan and I became really close friends actually after, during the end of the Pale Divine days.
Right.
So Rich went on first to go play with, it was when Pale Divine toured with Psychedelic Furs.
Right.
That he and Richard Butler, I guess, hit it off. And then Richard Butler needed a guitar player it was for a different project, for a side project that they did called Love Spit Love. Do you remember that?
Right. Yes, I remember.
Yeah. And I don't really know. And then when Rich left to do that, that was when Pale Divine kind of fell apart. And that was the end of that. And they ended up tens of thousands of dollars in debt and to the label, which was unfortunate for them. But of course they saw those big dollar signs, I'm sure, when they were in their early mid-20s, and a big label comes and gives you the come hither, and you're like, oh yeah, let's do it. But then you end up in debt. So there you go.
And then again, look at that in comparison to how Uncle Tupelo did it, and Tony Margarita. I just think that needs to be mentioned because they didn't immediately jump on a major label, and their music is still heard today, and we were a part of that scene.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny. It must have been right after Uncle Tupelo had signed to, who did they sign to?
They signed to Sire.
Right. It was right after they signed to Sire Records. we're at a house party where my friend Jen, Marla, all the Cicero's crew lived.
Right.
And I would either stay there or even I spent a summer there, like lived in the house at some point. But Jeff Tweedy came over, and you know, as people would come over after Cicero's closed and just hang out, and he came over with his guitar and he sat down and he was playing, and I remember having a conversation with him. I was feeling particularly bold. I didn't really know him that well. Like, we had met a couple of times, but I didn't really know him, and and so I said something to him about, well, what do you think about this, you know, sort of major label transition? Like, do you feel like it's and people in the 90s talked like this all the time, but we were like, I said something to the effect of, do you think that some people might look at it as a sellout? And he like snapped right back, and he was like, no, you know what? I get to make the music that I want to make, and I have the means to do it. And, you know, so it was like, you know, he knew what he was doing. He knew what he was doing. And they did it in a very sustainable way. And I'm not sure what their agreement was with Sire at the time, but clearly they had more creative control than Pale Divine did, you know?
Right. You know, and then, you know, and again, even also the Three Mare Widows thing was another one that they kind of got sung by their label, you know.
Yeah. That's just crappy, unfortunate. Yeah.
You know, but again, that was kind of throughout our period of being at WashU, that was an amazing time for music and arts and everything.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we were lucky to have been kind of exposed to a lot of, and really kind of to see, not only to be exposed to really good music, but also to see what it was like for young bands coming up to evolve and to get found and to get signed, and what that was like back then, which, you know, it's very different landscape now. But
definitely to even see how, you know, we got to see the early Bottle Rockets, and we got to see Blue Mountain. I mean, it was a really good time.
To hear more discussions about all walks of life, please join me on the Dale Wiley Show at DaleWileyShow.com, and also like and hit subscribe to the YouTube channel.